there was probably, I don't know, maybe 2 foot of snow. So we walked from our place in our bare feet through the snow into the water. We were in there for, I don't know, we didn't keep track, but I bet it was maybe 7 to 10 minutes. And the ice bath is a tool that you could train those situations in your life, stressful situations, fearful situations. So that alone, besides the physiological effects, has made a huge impact on my life.
Welcome to the Unleash Success Podcast, where we break down the secrets of success to give you real tools and strategies that get real results. And now, here's your host, COREY CORPODIAN.
Welcome back to Unleash Success. If you haven't subscribed to our newsletter yet, just go to unleashsuccess.com, enter your email so you can get all the tools and strategies sent directly to you each and every week. Today, I'm super excited because we get to interview Dr. Trish Smith. She is the founder of Expand Your Human. She is a certified Wim Hof instructor. She is a chiropractor and an all-around badass human being. We're going to go into some awesome breath work, talking about focus, movement, and cold exposure today. Thank you for inviting us over here and doing this interview with us today.
Yeah, you got it. Thanks for coming to Expand Your Human headquarters.
Yes, HQ here.
Yes.
We're going to be doing a live ice bath after this interview, guys. And I'm a little bit nervous because I've only done once, and you actually guided me through it, which was pretty amazing. And so what experiences for you has really pushed you to expand your human the most? Is it breathing? Is it exposure? What is it for you?
I would say the cold. The cold, besides the physiological effects, which we'll get into, has really changed my perception on fear and learning actually how to work with fear. And I never in my life imagined, teaching workshops with 20 people, let alone I get to speak on Wim's tour where there's anywhere from 200 to 500 people. And the ice bath is a tool that you could train those situations in your life, stressful situations, fearful situations. So that alone, besides the physiological effects, has made a huge impact on my life.
It's funny you bring up public speaking because I do a fair amount of speaking myself, and people always ask about the fear. And if you look at, I think it was like a study or a survey that said people are more scared of public speaking than death. And it's like, wait, what? You're more afraid of dying than stepping up in front of people. And yet somehow jumping into an ice bath has helped you play with the fear of and being able to handle that. And I got to tell you, there's not a lot of things that I feel really, truly afraid of, but I understand what you're saying of like letting the cold really take over. It's something we did in your workshop, which was really, really cool. And letting it take over your entire body and then creating a shift physiologically using the breathing you taught us. Yes. So you're in your chiropractic practice and you're getting into wellness. You're starting to expand your human. What led you to become a Wim Hof instructor and found Expand Your Human?
Yeah, when I was a chiro, just treating hips, shoulders, and low backs was never enough for me. Especially in LA, people in the industry very stressed out. I always wanted to know how could I impact their overall human performance and expand their capacities, because I know people can do way more, than they ever believed they could, and, physically they can. So I basically went on a search for the last decade of what is an optimal human, because to me, that's what health is. Health, if you look up the definition of the dictionary, is simply just being free from disease. For me, that's not good. I don't want to just exist on this planet, right? I want to do some amazing things. So to me, health is being an optimal human. So what is an optimal human and how do we become one? And that's really, I set out on this journey and I went through all different disciplines, manual therapies, movement practice, nutrition, functional medicine, even emotional intelligence and human connection. And through this journey of answering this question, two themes just kept repeating themselves. That number one, success, you have to have consistency, right? Consistency leads to success. Just must have it. And number two is that we are humans doing very non-human things all day long. Sitting, not moving all day, making an hour of exercise an excuse, right? That's kind of a made-up word, exercise, just because we're not moving all day as we should. Wearing shoes and socks all the time, not getting out in sunlight, only looking at our screens, a couple inches away, not using our eyes far away in the periphery, not looking into a person's eyes, not being conscious and present. That's another very human thing that we don't do anymore, right? We go through life just so unconsciously. Our phones do everything for us. So all of these things and a lot of illnesses, what they're finding through evolutionary biology is a lot of the illnesses we have, especially a lot of the autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis and MS, are all, what are they calling, mismatch diseases. So we have these primal genes that were not made for this modern environment, and therefore it's causing havoc.
Yeah. I actually talk about looking at screens all the time and sedentary lifestyle. I try to live a very active lifestyle, but I do sit quite a bit still. And computers, one thing that I love is I download the f.lux. It's like a free app to be able to take away the blue light. I just read an article, how blue light is damaging your eyes. And obviously, I think I saw Headstrong over there with Dave Asprey, and I saw him talk one time and he had the yellow glasses on. And I've played around with that. And on my phone, I'm on the night mode because of how much we're doing, like you said, non-human things. And it's taking away from our natural ability to kind of adapt quickly and live a healthier lifestyle. So Expand Your Human has currently 5 different attributes to it. What are the 5?
Breathe, move, play, sweat, freeze.
Cool. So can we go into a little bit about each one and what that means to you?
Sure. So breathe is one of the most, if not the most important things we do. Oxygen is also one of our vital elements along with food and water. We spend all kinds of time on our quantities and qualities of our food and water, but we never look at oxygen, right? We should pay attention to our qualities and quantities of oxygen. Having a breathing practice can also make you very efficient at exchanging carbon dioxide, which we're breathing off, and oxygen, which we're bringing in. And humans, our body wants to be as efficient as possible, right? We're about survival, okay? So having a breathing practice is going to allow us to have our exchange more efficiently. It's going to help the health of our circulatory system, which we have between 60,000 and 100,000 blood vessels in our circulatory system. You can literally, if you took them out of your body, you can wrap them around the earth on average about 2.5 times. That's how much infrastructure we have, and it's something we don't give any notice to. When we look at, what do I need to keep healthy? Muscles, joints, all that stuff. And if you actually look how much space blood vessels in our circulatory system, our lungs, and our heart take up, why is that not of utmost importance to us to keep healthy, right?
Yeah, and I think about just a lot of for me, when I started looking into the physiology aspects of emotions, and you talk about emotional intelligence, I'm huge in emotional intelligence, and I talk about emotional fitness and engaging your physiology. Certain, stress, anxiety, oftentimes we're holding our breath so tightly in, we don't even realize it. And then if you just relax and breathe out and exhale, that's why people say take a deep breath, and it's because it's changing your physiology to shift you to a different emotion. So super powerful. And then you said you also got, you breathe, move. And I noticed when we walked in, you're not wearing any shoes. Talk about movement and not wearing shoes. And do you do earthing as well?
Yes.
Yeah. So what exactly is earthing and what kind of movements do you do?
Earthing is just simply not having shoes or socks on and being outside, usually on a more natural surface like grass or,
What's the idea behind that too?
There's the research, there is some research on it, but it has to do with us exchanging electrons, which is, we are we're run by electricity, essentially. And so it has to do with us having this electron exchange with the earth and us grounding.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It's super powerful. But just being in your bare feet, again, our feet should work like our hands. We should have as much mobility. We should have as much strength. When you put them in shoes, it just holds everything almost like in a cast. It's like if you broke your arm and put a cast on it, what happens when you take the cast off?
It atrophies.
Right.
My arm shrinks.
Right. That's happening to your feet every time you're putting shoes on, even socks. Because most socks, unless you wear the toe socks, which I now wear, they're also just squishing your toes together. Essentially, our feet, our toes should actually be wider than the rest of our foot.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the shoe like that you put your individual toe into?
The Vibrams.
Yeah. I remember when that came out, everybody was talking about you want to wear these because if you can run naturally on your feet, it's much better for you. But then if you try it right away, though, you actually could injure yourself. So
Yes.
you got to build up into it.
Build up. You have to build up your tendons, your ligaments, your muscles to be able to handle it. And what I've learned, I wear little minimal sandals. That's how I actually I hike in those and I trail run. But the other tissue that you have to prepare for that is when you're hitting rocks, right? You have to prepare the bottom of your feet, your tissues, your skin, bruising. You have to be prepared. You have to allow your body to adapt if you're going to change these things. Yeah. The other part of move is just move all day long. Like there's again, 1 hour of exercise they've showed does not take away if you're sitting the rest of your day. It just doesn't. So I call them, people call them little movement snacks, or, if I take calls, I'll usually go walk around the pool or outside. Just because you have a standing desk doesn't mean that that's the best position either. The best position is the next position. Meaning move. People are like, oh, well, I have a standing desk, but then they're standing in the same position statically. That's not good either. So it's really about movement, and if you look at the people that live the longest in the world, they are simply just walking. Walking is a very underrated thing, and it's super, super powerful.
We talked about, I think you mentioned blue zones one time when we were at your workshop, and just how one of the key factors for people living to be 100 years old was that they simply move. They go for a walk, just around the block even. And it's very interesting because one of them, there's only like 5 blue zones in the world, and one of them's in California in Loma Linda. And those are concentrations, right, where there's the most 100-year-old or above people in the world.
Right.
And they're obviously doing something right.
Yes.
So going into kind of the sweat or the play, actually, I actually really enjoy that. Bring a little fun into your life. Not something that everybody always talks about. And I mean, especially on a podcast, Unleash Success, right? Where success, I got to work, but enjoying life. And for me, even coming here, I was like, oh, it's a job kind of thing where we're working. And I'm in the car focusing, like, how can I enjoy this process even more? I'm a little bit scared about jumping in the ice because it's been a while, and playing with the fear. I'm like, this is an amazing opportunity. I'm like, look how cool this is, and so I really love that about your motto, really. Yeah,
and you can look at it too. Like we have these business skills, right? That you need, but this kind of parallels Wim Hof. So we have business skills that are external, right? Like you doing a podcast, accounting, marketing, right? Social media management, whatever it is. But then we have internal business skills, vulnerability, right? Taking things on that you're fearful of, having those conversations, whatever it may be. We have these internal business skills that if we improve our human performance, they're going to translate over in our business, right? Like the new thing is hustle, grind. If you just do that, you are not going to be very successful, right? And you can be so much more focused and productive and happy if you get all these other things in line and get your human in line, right? Like meditation, they say if you don't have time to meditate for 10 minutes, then you should meditate for 2 hours.
Right.
Just taking that time, for even all of these 5 things, and especially sleep. What we know about sleep now is it's purely a non-negotiable. It's where we actually learn. It's where we consolidate our memories from short-term to long-term. It's where we literally regenerate everything in our body. So if you're skipping out on that and you think, staying up 2 more hours and working, that's going to affect you. Sleeping those 2 hours is actually going to put you into success much, much faster. So there's, that's with Wim Hof, we have external senses, which is like most of our, seeing, smelling, touching, right? We have this external sense, but then we also have what's called interoceptive focus, which is internal focus. And this is what we're figuring out of why Wim can do what he does and how he's crushed 26 world records, being in the cold for 2 hours, climbing Mount Everest, all of these things, is that he has this internal focus where it's the definition is basically you can sense physiologically what's going on. So you can feel your heart beat. You can feel your pulses. Your own heart rate just from looking inside. You can, really sense like, how am I feeling? And just being present with it. You can be present with your breath. So we have an internal focus and then we have an external focus. And the same thing with business. Everyone will always talk about the external business skills and, all these things that you have to have. But if you are not healthy, if you're not an optimal human, right, then that's going to show in your external business skills.
Yeah, and eventually, right? I mean, because I know a lot of people probably listen to this, and I am definitely the hustle, work, grind type of person. But I also carve out time. I force myself to relax. I force myself to take vacations. I force myself to do it because I know how important it is. Sometimes I do say, you know what, if you got to get stuff done, you stay up late. But then I force myself. I'm very scheduled. I wake up, go to the gym at the same time. I try to get probably 6 hours of sleep. I told you I'm a little jet lagged right now, so yes. I'm struggling with that sleep math right now, 2 hours a night or something. But it is very important because sometimes I'll feel exhausted if I'm not, and if I'm exhausted, I'm not functioning at the highest efficiency that I should be at.
That's where you always make mistakes, and then things end up taking you longer, right? You can't focus. All these things. Hey, I'm all for hard work. Absolutely, right. It needs to be done, but if you can weave both of those things in, you're only going to be, on the fast track, even more so. Exactly.
It's about optimizing your entire life.
Right.
Not just, running yourself into the ground so you can be financially successful. And right. It's like the people who literally, I think it was the Dalai Lama. I might be wrong on this quote. It might be the Dalai Lama, I think, who said something along the lines that man is so confusing because he works to earn money at the expense of his health, and then he spends all of his money trying to recoup his health, only to never really having lived. And it's like this weird catch-22 where people sacrifice their health their whole life to make money. They finally have the money, but then they don't have the health to enjoy it. So I wanted to ask you about the Wim Hof method. You're a certified instructor. You've been with him for a long time. That's how we actually met. Was I started following. I was like, I got to go to one of your workshops because I just wanted to jump into a bath of ice and expand my human. I wanted to expand every aspect of me. And so there are 3 different levels, which you kind of touched on. Focus being the first one. And real quick too, when you were saying that, this is an amazing capability of human beings. Is that as you were saying, you can feel your heartbeat. I was feeling my heartbeat. And you can, if you pay attention to your skin on your wrist or your hand, which you never think about, you're like, wow, I can actually feel that now. So shifting focus just by thinking about it. So how did you get involved in the Wim Hof method to begin with?
So as I was on this journey to find what is an optimal human and how do we become one, I was listening to one of my friends' podcasts, Lewis Howes, the podcast School of Greatness. and Laird Hamilton was on there. And I've always, loved watching him and his capabilities. He's in his mid-50s, and the guy he's a big wave surfer. He can not only physically do amazing things, but mentally. And, always had this respect for him. And he mentioned, oh, yeah, I've been doing this breathing practice with this Wim Hof for the last 2 years. I was like, oh, man, I got to look into this. So literally the next morning, went online, searched for the Iceman, and jumped in, signed up for the 10-week. There's a 10-week online program, and changed my life in so many ways. One with working with fear, energy, managing stress, like you talked about, and just never looked back. And then all of a sudden, I was going to go to an Australia trip because they do these different summer and winter travels. So I was looking online, and then all of a sudden I saw this academy, and I was like, what is this? And it basically was the first class for the U.S. instructors. So in the Netherlands, they've been, certifying instructors because that's where Wim is from for the last few years. And just now, so when I had been looking, they just started the U.S. Academy. So I signed up right away and jumped right into the academy, and I was one of the first U.S. instructors. And then I just started teaching workshops, and I got brought into the Wim Hof Academy to teach the other instructors. I get to teach breathing anatomy and mechanics, and then I also get to speak on Wim's tour. So I just dove in, and it's taken me all the way here.
Wow. And, I just apologize for some people who don't know who Wim Hof is. They call him the Iceman because he's broken, I think you said 26 world records. But he's kind of developed a method, the Wim Hof method, to be able to maximize kind of your ability to maintain cold exposure, health, and happiness. And there's 3 pillars. Can you tell us a little bit about Wim Hof and who he is, and then what his method is?
Sure. Yeah, so some people know him by the Iceman, and if you look up, there's actually a Vice documentary. You can look it up on YouTube. Just type in Iceman Vice, and it'll come up. It's a great documentary. But basically, it was born out of a necessity of a broken heart, because he was in his mid-30s and had 4 kids with his wife, and his wife struggled with mental illness and committed suicide. So here you are, a young man with 4 kids, like, how do you go on? How do you go on as a father and somehow find peace in your heart? And he always found the answers in nature, and specifically cold. Through that and, all different breathing practices and learning different things and yoga, he developed the Wim Hof method, which is the 3 pillars are breathing exercises, mindset, focus, and cold exposure.
What is kind of the breathing aspect, and what does that involve, and how does that affect you and give you the results? What exactly does it do? Sure.
So the exact technique, you have to either come to a workshop, which is what I actually highly recommend, because, even for you, breathing in a group is so much more amazing than doing it at home by yourself, right?
Absolutely. There's a definite group energy and the group feel. And then when you share kind of the experience of breathing, it was very intense, much more intense than I ever would have imagined, by the way. Just kind of the feeling in your body, the almost out of body experience, kind of where time kind of slows down a little bit is it over oxygenation in the blood? I'm not sure what exactly causes it. Can you go into that?
Sure. So it's a controlled, deep breathing, we'll say, mixed in with a breath retention. And again, the reason why we don't just, talk about it all the time or just have people do it is because basically what we're doing is you are really shifting your physiology, specifically your biochemistry. So during the deep breathing, you are blowing off a lot of carbon dioxide, more so than normal. And with that, it puts our body into a state of what's called respiratory alkalosis. Now, this is a medical condition that can just happen to you, and it's not a good position, but this is actually a controlled state that we're putting ourselves in. We want to flip our biochemistry because we don't want to always just maintain at comfort all the time, right? This goes for the cold as well. But so learning it, you can go to either the app. There's a Wim Hof Method app, free. There's also a free mini course on wimhofmethod.com, which we'll put links up for. But breathing is very, very, very simple, and it's something we don't think about, but it's extremely profound of what can happen to you. So we do suggest, of course, there's all kinds of safety with it. You can't do it if you're pregnant or epilepsy, and also with some heart conditions. And you cannot do it. It is not a breath-holding technique for going underwater. That is an absolute, you will die and can die.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. It's called shallow water blackout. So if you want to learn how to hold your breath longer in water, go to a free diving course.
Not this breathing method.
Yes. Yeah. And you can pass out. So the best position to do it in is laying down. But so you can go to those places to learn. And again, coming to a workshop is a great way to learn and be with a group and share your experience, because you can, have tingling and muscle spasming and go through different consciousness. And so it's a nice, safe place to be together.
Yeah, I forgot about that actually during the workshop. There was a lot of tingling going on in my fingers and just very interesting feelings. You're not sure what's really going on. And the one big thing that I do remember, though, is being very centered, calm, relaxed, but also happy. And I don't know if there's studies to show this, but it's definitely an incredible experience to have. And I really, really enjoyed it. I don't know if there's what other people say about it. What do you feel?
That's probably the one I get the most is about, people know they should meditate or, be mindful, and they don't like to just go sit and be quiet. Or they feel like they're not doing something right. And with breathing, essentially you are meditating. All meditating is being present in the moment with no judgment. And when you're doing a breathing practice, that's all you're thinking about. So you are super present on what is happening. So people always say, like, this is my new, meditation. During the breath holds, you get this amazing stillness. And I spoke on this before about how important it is to have this balance of go, go, go and relax. And, we should train stillness as much as we train go, 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 work out in the gym, stress, work hard, all these things. We should train stillness with the same qualities and quantities and strength and endurance, right? And a breath hold, especially with the Wim Hof method, you can actually hold your breath for like 2 minutes to 5 minutes sometimes. So you have this amazing little window of just like quiet.
5 minutes you can hold your breath.
Some people can't.
Maybe I got to like a minute and a half. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like I used to swim underwater. I know we're talking about different things, but I would be able to hold my breath for a long time. 5 minutes, though, is a very long time. That's pretty impressive.
But then what something that stuck out when you said it makes you happy. I did a workshop just a couple weeks ago in Connecticut, and older guy comes up to me after. He goes, I don't know. He goes, I haven't felt this in a long time, but I feel happy. And just for him to leave there with a little bit of happiness, in the matter of 5 hours or, one session of doing the breathing was amazing.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
Super cool. Yeah, when I went to your workshop, it was a couple months ago. I was so busy, and I was exhausted, by the way. What's the theme there? I need to hack my sleep for sure. I'm the go, go, go type, and then I just crash and burn. Well, I just got back from vacation. What am I talking about? I had a great time.
On vacation, did you have like amazing creativity and any really cool thoughts about the future of like things that just came up that you probably wouldn't have experienced?
Are you reading my mind? I mean, two things that were amazing about vacation. For the first 3 days, we're in Uluwatu, Bali, Indonesia, and it's a gorgeous sunny day outside. But I'm working on my book, and I'm at the very end of it. So every morning I woke up and I was I never written so freely and just, I mean, I was on fire with 5 hours in a couple of days. I had actually knocked out the whole book. I mean, things that probably would have taken me 3 months took me 4 days. So creativity was skyrocketing. The other cool thing was I actually took a nap. So it's sunny. I should probably be out at the beach. And I took a nap for 4 hours, which I never nap. So I just was completely relaxed was the cool thing. Anyway, so I forced myself to take vacations for moments like that.
Yes.
So we were talking a little bit about cold exposure. Now, real quick too. So we talk about the benefits of breathing is happiness, one of them, but also it helps physiologically, like the actual health of your body to be able to circulate that much oxygen. And you said shift out of your comfort zone. So there's a lot of health benefits to that. And I know I've been doing research too on breathing, fascinating stuff, how, you get more focused, you can get, more creative, not just about feeling happy. And then with the ice and the cold bath, what's the theory behind this?
Well, again, we are humans. We have these primal thermoregulatory systems that adapt us to cold and hot. And how do you keep any system, muscle, whatever in your body healthy? What do you have to do?
Use it.
Use it.
Right.
That's it. So if you're just sitting at room temperature all the time, you are actually doing your health a major disservice. Being at comfort, our physiology is analogous to growing in your career and your relationships, right? What do you have to do? Where's the magic?
I mean, this is what I think, but guessing for you, I think outside of your comfort zone.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
exactly.
We're on the same page.
Exactly. The magic's outside the comfort zone. Same thing with our physiology. Our physiology was not made to stay comfortable all the time. Yet, as humans, that's what we've built, right? We've built all of these things to block us from nature and the elements and all of these things.
Right.
So we have these primal systems in our body, and we should be keeping them healthy, exposing ourselves to both cold and hot. We've talked about research on, the research on saunas is phenomenal. Especially for your circulatory system. A new one just came out about reducing your risk of stroke. Super, super important. And, some other things you talked about earlier about you getting in and you being stressed, right? Stress is not a bad thing. Chronic low-grade stress that people live in all the time is what's bad. But stress, again, is a primal system in our body. So if you want to call it good stress, people use the word eustress, or in this case with the cold, it's called hormetic stress. So when we go into the cold, it actually makes our system better. It makes our physiology better. There's a book out, Nassim Taleb, it's called Anti-Fragile. It's about how, a volatility or stress actually makes things better. In the human body, just like, he talks about like the economy or the stock market, needs to be volatile. That's what actually makes it not break, which is super interesting. The same thing happens with our body. So we want to get stressed in a controlled, temporary way. With the stress, we get a free shot of adrenaline, which is awesome, right? You can just go jump in the cold. You don't have to go jump out of a plane or, anything else. Like just cold, you get a free shot of adrenaline, which is good for enhancing mood and focus and attention. You also get a nice shot of dopamine, which is a reward, feel-good hormone. You learn how to work with fear, again, and it's a tool. It's also a good mirror for your life. How am I showing up in fearful situations, right? How am I showing up in stressful situations? Do I have all these narratives running in my head? Am I talking myself out of it? Or am I hitting it straight on? And with the cold, you were talking about the shift earlier. So the cold, again, is a tool and allows you to use your breath. Breathing controls your nervous system. It's actually the only way we can directly, voluntarily control our nervous system. So the way you breathe, really, when somebody says take a deep breath, affects you on a major, major physiological, neurological level. So when you get in, you get stressed out, you let the cold take your breath away. Don't think that it's warm or try to, have egos and like, oh, I'm not going to be cold. No, you actually want. I say go for the ride. Then as soon as you want to control it, you're going to inhale through the nose and then just lengthen your out breath. Lengthening the out breath, the exhale automatically will drive your nervous system into the rest and digest side, into the relaxed state. So again, tool from going from stressed to calm, or what we call the shift.
So, and that was huge for me. A lot of studies that I've read on physiology, but when you said that your inhale or your exhale has to be longer than your inhale, and then actually lengthening how long, not forcefully exhaling, but just lengthening the time it takes to exhale your breath, how that creates a shift into a more relaxed state, even with 200 or 300 pounds of ice surrounding you in an ice bath. I'd never in a million years thought that would, just by controlling my breath, I would be able to remain calm in an ice bath. And like, where did they find that from? Was that just from something Wim Hof came up with, or like, did they do studies? Where did that come from?
That comes from physiology research even before Wim. Like, again, that's the only way. Basically, your breath, we know, say if you're in an anxious state, your heart rate's usually up, right? And your breathings are usually a little bit shallower and faster,
That's
right? So it can either happen to you, or if I just breathe faster, it'll increase my heart rate and therefore drive me into a more sympathetic or fight or flight state, right? So it can either happen to me or I can actually control it.
So if somebody suffers from something like anxiety, the example you just used, if they were to shift their breathing pattern, that would put them into a relaxed state. One
way, yes.
One way.
Especially, it depends. Some people, when they get into if they're really like in a panic attack, or, there's always a line, like if you can get somebody before they start going a little bit too far, then they can usually shift it. But I have tons of people that use it for anxiety, and it will help. And then if you train it more, the key is, if you do have those issues, if you train it more every day, even throughout the day, then your body is now adapted. And if I train myself in stressful situations like the ice bath, if you stress and calm and you work the extremes of your nervous system, now you become more resilient in between. Now my body takes that out into the regular world. And if I get a terrible phone call about something or lose my job, my body can now handle that stress, and it knows how to bring itself back down.
And that's actually probably one of the biggest benefits, not just physiologically and health-wise, but also too for a lot of people who were like, how can I use this in the real world? Like, great, like I feel happy, but in business or stressful situations or in relationships, now you're coming with your like best self forward. I really, really love that. And I was wondering about, too, the cold, because there's studies that show, too, that it's not just about mood and shifting and getting into a relaxed state, but also, too, that it boosts the immune response. What else does it do? What else does the cold give you?
Those are the main things. And like I said, adrenaline, dopamine, so you're getting some other hormones.
How does it affect your immune system, though? Like, I mean, is it I think I read a study about Wim Hof, and like they took some test subjects and they injected it with a flu vaccine. And as long as they did the Wim Hof method, that they didn't get sick, but the other people who didn't do it ended up getting very sick for 4 days. Is it the breathing mixed in with the cold exposure? What's your experience with that?
Yeah, so that specific study, it is a published research study, and it was done in the Netherlands. And they did it on Wim first, right? And Wim, so they got all injected with part of an E. coli virus.
Right,
it's called the endotoxin. Yeah. They show this in the Vice documentary as well. But so they injected him with that, and you should be sick for several hours, fever, nausea, chills. And he only had a minor headache for about 10 minutes. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. But again, you're this mutant polar bear human. And, most research, you need more than one person. He went back to the researchers and said, look, whatever I can do, anybody can learn. And this is one thing, like, there's so many things I love about Wim. Anything is possible and that anybody can do it. He truly believes that. And his world records were essentially to get him noticed for research. Like, how does this guy do these things? And how is it affecting us? And who else can learn this? And how does it apply to mental illness and autoimmune diseases and all of these things, right? But so he went back to the researchers and he said, whatever I can do, anybody can learn. So they took 24 guys, 12 guys got to train with Wim, 12 guys were in the control group, which means they just go about their daily lives. 10 days before the study, only 10 days, they went out to Poland to train with Wim in the cold, mountain climbs, mindset, only for 4 days. They went home for 6 days before the injection and just maintained their own breathing practice, even just cold showers. They all go in the hospital and get injected. And all 12 guys that trained with Wim only had symptoms for a maximum of 15 minutes. All 12 guys that were in the control group that didn't train with Wim were sick, fever, chills, nausea for several hours. So, and what they found, they weren't just going around with a clipboard like, oh, how you feeling? Meanwhile, the guys like want to puke their brains out or something, right? They're doing physiological studies, and basically from the blood work, what they found was that after the injection, they would start doing the breathing technique, and they would do an advanced version of the breathing, which puts you into a very sympathetic state, which is a fight or flight.
Yeah.
Good stress, right? Essentially, they found that Wim could put himself in a state as if he was doing a bungee jump for the first time, just by breathing.
Sounds a little extreme, but just by breathing.
Just by breathing. So with this shot of adrenaline, you get release of cortisol, and then what happens is that I don't want to say suppress, but it basically quells, it attenuates the inflammatory proteins, which are what give you a lot of the symptoms, right? So it brings down these inflammatory proteins, and then it brings up anti-inflammatory proteins. So people look at this study and they're like, well, why would I want to suppress my immune system? You're not suppressing your immune system. What you're doing is kind of getting them back in harmony, or getting all of those inflammatory proteins that are too high, you're bringing those down, and you're bringing anti-inflammatory proteins back up. So it's more of a harmonize of bringing them back to where they should be. So
was it that with the injection of the E. coli endotoxin that your body, what caused people to get sick is actually the inflammatory markers, but our anti-inflammatory markers are kind of, we push those down and the anti-inflammatory markers kind of increase and we create a balance. So you still feel a little something, Correct. But you're not getting sick.
Right. So you're getting a little something because you want the body to go in and kill the bug.
Right.
Right? So it's going in and killing the bug, but then it's dying out, as opposed to going in, killing the bug, and then just keeping in this inflammatory cycle, which is what we have a lot in the world today, especially with autoimmune diseases. Autoimmune just basically means your body's attacking itself as if it was a foreigner, right? So we're in these inflammatory states, and this has been shown to kind of break that inflammatory state. Now, with that study, what they want to do next is specifically say, okay, did it have anything to do with the training before? Was it mindset focus? Was it the cold exposure? Was it the mountain climbs? Was it just the breathing after the injection? So now they want to kind of pinpoint, was it all three pillars? Was it just the breathing? So that's what they're going to do next. And there's actually 11 other research studies going on right now specifically on the Wim Hof method, which is amazing.
Yeah, that's what I love. They're really trying to back it with science. They're not trying to say, hey, listen, this is one, the Iceman who can swim, a record-breaking under ice and run a marathon in the Sahara or whatever desert it was, like in 100 degrees and not drink any water, climb Mount Everest in shorts, no T-shirt, and nobody else can do it. But that we can actually do it.
Right.
I'm curious too, for you, expanding your human through this entire process, what's been one of the most extreme environments you've put yourself into and kind of had an experience with?
Yeah, I would say it was in February. I went to Vancouver to speak on WIM's tour, and it was negative Celsius degrees, and it was snowing. We had an Airbnb across the street from the ocean, and there was probably, I don't know, maybe 2 foot of snow. So we walked from our place in our bare feet through the snow into the water. We were in there for, I don't know, we didn't keep track, but I bet it was maybe 7 to 10 minutes. Again, you only want to start with like 2 minutes when you are in the water, but
you're doing this as it's snowing on you and it's freezing temperatures outside.
Yes.
So you went for a swim.
Yes. And it's moving water, which means it can be colder than below zero if it's actually moving. Like we were in creeks in Colorado that were 22 degrees if you just break the ice on the surface. So, we don't know what the temperature of the water is, but walk out through the snow. It's snowing. Again, I think it was like -2 Celsius. I have this up as one of my saved like highlight stories on my hair was literally frozen. So in the water, then we get out, and with cold exposure, what you don't want to do is actually heat yourself up too quickly. You can get what's called after drop, which is a mild form of hypothermia. It is not a fun position to be in. It's basically when your body can't get warm. So you don't want to heat yourself up too fast. So a lot of the Wim Hof method is, after you get in the cold, is about creating your own heat. So we're in the water, we get out, still, standing in snow. We get into what's called horse stance, which we use a lot in the Wim Hof method. It's just it's different martial arts techniques, bending the knees, using some arm movements, creating our own heat. So we're out in the snow for, I don't know, another maybe 5 minutes, and then we walk back to the place. So that was by far the coldest thing that I've ever experienced. And not a good thing, but I literally, just the tips of my toes were numb for probably about a week. And then I got that back. So, you can, just because, people have these egos, they're like, oh, I'm doing the Wim Hof method, I can never get hurt. You can still hurt yourself. So, even
with all the experience you've had,
yeah.
You guys were out there in -2 degrees Celsius. And so even then you got some numbing. Wow.
Yeah.
Thank God you got it back. But this is a very serious endeavor, and you want to make sure you do it safely. Yes. So how did that feel, though? Like swimming in the ocean while it's snowing outside? I can't even imagine.
It's amazing, especially having Wim there. And then Isabella, his daughter, was on the land taking pictures. And it's like this amazing, it looks like an abstract portrait of us. And another one of our instructors, Sam, was also with us. So there's these 3 little heads. And then it's just like this like abstract painting. So it was all worth it, even just for the picture.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was good.
Feel like you can do anything now?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I did the ice bath for 2 minutes, and I felt pretty amazing. To go out there, sometimes I go out to the ocean, it's 55 degrees. I'm like, nah, not today.
Yeah.
I can't imagine being 22 degrees in a river. It would be incredible. Just I don't know. Anyways, amazing. So with the cold exposure, we talked a little bit about safety. What are some tips that people can do to avoid something like that happening, and maybe try this stuff at home?
Yeah, the simplest thing is just start with cold showers. Wim's got a great little shower challenge on his website that you can print out this little sheet. Basically, you just increase every week. You start at 15 seconds and increase your time in the cold 15 seconds every week. And you can mark it off. You take your normal warm shower, turn it cold at the end. It doesn't even have to go on your head or your face or your neck, because those are a little more sensitive areas. Turn it cold and use the breathing. Let it be cold, and then just work on the long exhales. Long exhales. And start there, and then just gradually work up. When this is something new, and again, I talked about all those miles and miles of blood vessels. All of those actually shift when we get in the cold. So to get in the cold and keep your organs and your brain alive, what happens is your body does a blood flow shunt. So all of your blood vessels in your limbs, your arms and your legs constrict, and then the blood vessels in your organs and your brain dilate. So now you have this warm blood circulating in your most important parts for survival, right?
Right.
So with that big blood flow shunt, you've got your blood vessels have to open and close, and all this stuff's happening. And if you're just at room temperature for, 30 years of your life, and now you're going to go do this, that can have a big impact. So you have to allow the body time to adapt. It's very, very important. You have to earn the right to stay in longer. And with the ice bath, it's not about length of time being in. It's really not. What they're finding now actually is that the key is to be cold, below 55, like 55 to 32, and like 3 minutes. That's it. If you are going to increase your time, you want to do it very, very small increments, even like 10 seconds. And you don't even need to train length of time unless you're training for some specific purpose. Like I'm going out with the Wim Hof Academy to Portland. Our last part of your graduation class, we go out for 5 days and you all stay together and you usually do like a cold mountain climb. And we're going to be at the base of Mount Hood. So we might do something, right? Something very cold and climbing. So I'm going to allow myself, more time and acclimate longer so I can be outside for a longer period of time. But where the magic happens in the ice bath is that shift that you talked about, from going from stress to calm. And again, only being in. If you do start an ice bath or go to a day spa, go to a cold plunge, 2 minutes is a good place to start. It's a good, safe place where your core temperature is not going to drop too low.
Very interesting, yeah. And that shift, I think it's just incredible that just with your breath, we can actually control our parasympathetic nervous system and shift everything, even being surrounded by ice. Now, you talked about like sometimes just as much as 3 minutes. And one thing that's kind of grown in popularity is the cryotherapy. And that's 3 minutes. I've done that once too. It's very different though, because it creates like your skin temperature down to negative 235 degrees Fahrenheit using nitrogen. So liquid nitrogen, but you can't have any cold on, or it can't be wet at all. I actually found, just comparing the two, that the ice bath was way more intense. And the amount of energy that I felt like I burned in the process. Also with cryotherapy, the minute I got out, I warmed right back up. But with the ice bath, I had to walk out with intent. And thank God you said that. But I had no idea to jump out and not put a towel on because of the blood shunting, but to walk out with intent and purpose, and then do the movements and reheat your body kind of from within. It was very interesting. What do you think about the cryotherapy? Is that something that people can do? Because, that's very popular, or should we just kind of stick with the cold showers?
Yeah, I get asked this at every workshop, and my response is part of the Wim Hof method is also us getting back to nature, right? And to me, a steel or a metal tube that's plugged in and blowing nitrogen gas is not very natural. They're actually finding now too that nitrogen gas is maybe damaging skin cells. So a lot of them are moving to just blowing cold air, which is great. But again, it's very unnatural. Also, you are not training your hands and feet, right? Because you had gloves and little booties on. And you're also not training your head at all, your face, because, your head's above the chamber. So you can't be underneath. So you're not training those things either. It's also, like you mentioned, a more superficial cold. What they found is it doesn't decrease your core temperature like a cold immersion does or an ice bath.
So that's what it is. Our core temperature actually decreases in the ice bath. That's why it was so much more intense.
Yes. So you have to do much more work and work afterwards in the cold immersion. And most of the studies, most of the benefits we know physiologically from cold exposure are from cold immersion, not from cryotherapy. Doing cold, if you can do cold exposure, I'm always jealous of, I did a few workshops in Canada, and now all these people that went to my workshops are going to these amazing places in Canada and going and swimming in glacier waters. And it's just like, I'm so jealous, which is weird because I actually used to hate the cold. But doing cold exposure in nature just takes you to a whole nother level.
You say you hate the cold. And I know a lot of people, when I started doing this, when I was talking about my post picture, people were like, you are crazy. I never want to do cold showers. I like my showers hot. What do you tell those people?
I tell them if they don't like it, they should probably go to the workshop and learn, because you will change. I hated cold. I was always cold. Women usually tend to run a little bit colder anyways, but I grew up in Southern California, lived in Southern California most of my life. Going to the movie theater, I would freeze. Going on an airplane, I have to literally wear thermals under pants. Like, I would be that cold. And this has completely shifted my body temperature, what I can handle, what I'm adapted to. And I have tools that if I do get cold, I can create my own heat and heat myself back up.
Yeah, it's so cool. Speaking of heat, we mentioned sauna and how the benefits of sauna, and that's something that you've kind of incorporated to expand your human as part of the 5 things that you use. And I know you're talking about sleep too. We won't get into that, but with the sauna exposure, what do you find are the optimum times for sauna?
That is so dependent on the temperatures, and there's so many different saunas now with infrared and just the old, barrel saunas that are, you're just basically in there for the heat. You can I think Laird's can get up to like 225 degrees.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So it really, it's so varied. And the thing about both the cold and the hot are, everyone's looking for the minimal effective dose, right? What's the temperature? What's the time? And, one thing about research is it's really hard because research takes essentially one population, say, 35-year-old males that, exercise. And then you can only look at one variable, right? But there's so many different variables. So, with research, people say, oh, well, this study contradicts this study. But if you actually look at it, it's usually 2 different variables that they're looking at, or another population, right? Yeah. So it's really hard to say, what is the best time. What you really want to do is just go off, be very present with your body and what you can handle and what it's adapted to. And then next time, stress it a little bit more and then get out. Always make sure with the cold and the hot that your body can recover afterwards. If you're in the sauna too long and you're completely wiped out afterwards and you're not feeling well, you're lightheaded, you stayed in too long. Yeah. Right? So it's about being present with what your body specifically is ready for and adapted for and that you've earned. When
I first started doing the sauna, I started with just like 10 minutes max, and the sauna was maybe 160 degrees. And then I slowly built up. I did, about 15 and then 20. I built up to 25, and 30 was like too much. Afterwards, I was wiped out. I might not have been ready. But like I was telling you earlier, it was recently I went into a sauna that was 185 degrees. And after 10 minutes, I'm like, whoa, this is a completely different sauna. I'm feeling much different. It was very hot. Your nails actually start to heat up in there. Yes. And the air is so hot that your nails start to burn, which is a feeling I have from indoor skydiving when I used to work in Vegas. And middle of summer, it was very hot. But that hot air was crazy. So one thing with Unleash Success that we really believe in is the 80-20 rule, kind of the Pareto principle. And the way I interpret it with success is 80% of our results come from 20% of our strategies and our action. What actions to take, though, are sometimes unknown to us. So we try the same thing over and over again. We keep failing. We don't know why. What are some of the top actions you'd recommend to expand your human and kind of create a better lifestyle for people?
I think the first that everybody should have is a breathing practice. Could be Wim Hof, could be something called Buteyko. Brian McKenzie has some really good stuff out. Just be more present with your breath and learn how it controls your nervous system. It is the most simple, most profound, and it's going to give you the biggest bang for your buck, right? In all of my Expander Human Primal principles, it's all about your highest return on your investment, just like 80-20 principle. I mean, I would love to just actually be a human all day and play and move and breathe and, go hang and sit in a squat and all of these things. But, unfortunately we can't, especially it's funny because in our business, when we're trying to spread health or success, we're the ones that are getting wrecked, sitting behind computers and, all these things. So it's interesting the way that happens. But so breathing, just start with being present with it. Check in with yourself. Like right now, just stop. How are you breathing? Where is it starting? Are you breathing in through your nose or through your mouth? How long are your inhales and exhales? Just check in. And then inhale through the nose. Try to start the breath down in the belly, filling all the way around. Fill the chest. And then lengthen your exhale out. Again, inhale through the nose and lengthen the exhale. Just that. How do you feel? It's very, very simple, and be more aware of it. What happens with our breathing is we get into this short shoulder breathing, and even through the mouth, so it's more like this, right? We know from research that if your mouth's open and you're doing these very short, fast breaths, that you are driving yourself into that sympathetic mode, into that fight or flight mode. Just that simple. So you're getting chased by a bear if that's why the way you're sitting around all day. It has that much of an impact. So just check in with it.
And that kind of stress on your body was meant only for a fleeting moment to escape for your life. But if you're living with it every single moment of the day, it's detrimental.
Right. Exactly. So that is I would say above anything, just, be present with your breath. Move around all day long. Like there's no just 1 hour, I'm going to the gym. No, find a way to incorporate it in your life in some way. Play could be very, very simple. I play with Rubik's Cube, which I've now learned that Corey is quite the Rubik's Cube.
Long time ago, I tried to do it. I've managed to actually solve it in under a minute a few times, but I'm a little rusty. So if I can do it in under 2 minutes, I'm happy.
Juggling. Juggling is another thing I do, not only for play, but we've learned what it does for your brain. It actually grows brain mass, which is amazing. It also helps with my focus. And it's funny, is I look at juggling, especially when you first start to learn, where people have a hard time with learning how to juggle is letting go. So it's kind of like an analogy for life, right? Because people juggle and they want to hold on to the ball. And it's like, no, you got to let it go in order to let it flow. So I look at that as it's an analogy of letting go. So
I
play.
love that, by the way. That's awesome. No wonder I'm so good at juggling. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. It's, just because we're adults, that's how we grew our brain and all of these amazing things in our imagination. Imagination also comes with play. As we were kids, that's why we developed all those things. And now just because, if you don't do that, it's going to stop. For sweat, either just sweat or I look at it more now like just exposing yourself, to heat. And we've had an amazing heat wave. And most people, have complained about it, right? And they're like, this is the worst thing ever. But then when it's cold, they'll complain as well. I say feel the seasons. When it's been so hot, try to go outside. Try to cool yourself down. Just like trying to create your own heat. Experience it. Let yourself sweat. Let yourself get hot. Cold, same thing. Cold exposure. Start with the showers. Go to day spas. Go in the cold plunge. Train your hands and feet in cold. That's an easy, practical way to do it at home. Dunk your face in some cold ice water. If you're having a crappy day or you're in a rut or you have a writer's block with creativity, you want to disrupt your patterns, stick your face in some cold water and it will.
You mentioned something about that in the workshop. I can't remember what it is. So I'm hoping you can remind me. But it was, you'd said something about how if you put your head horizontally, when you dump it in cold water, it shifts your physiology, something like that.
Yeah. So when your face is horizontal, you're in the cold and you're holding your breath, we can drive what's called the mammalian dive reflex. And with that, essentially our whole body kind of slows itself down for survival. So we get our heart rate slows down, your blood pressure can even slow down. And the other amazing thing, what they found is that same blood flow shunt that I was talking about, how, warm blood circulates here, happens just by if you trigger the mammalian dive reflex. So I can get the same full body shunt as if I jumped into a cold bath, as if I just put my face in.
So just like a bowl of ice water, horizontally face plant into it.
Yep.
And
it doesn't even have to go above the ears, just face.
Wow. That's a great tip.
Yeah.
And these are all great tips. And one of the other things too, we were talking about cryotherapy, and that's kind of like, $30-40. But doing an ice bath is actually cheaper. And I just want to share that with people because people don't know. Like, I go buy an ice bag for $5, but I think you said from Costco they're $2.
$2 for 20-pound bags.
20-pound bags.
Yes. At the grocery store, they're usually about $5 for like a 7-pound bag, even sometimes, or maybe a 10-pound bag.
Nice.
But Costco is definitely, and that's the thing about ice baths. They're not. When I lived in LA, I didn't have anywhere to do an ice bath. Now that I'm here in San Diego and I have a backyard, I can do one. Once a week, we're finding is a good, minimal effective dose. Or if you have a bathtub, the problem with bathtubs are usually you don't fit all the way in it. And the best way to get the response is to be completely up all the way, at least to your shoulders in the cold.
Why is that?
Mainly so your body isn't using any energy to escape. So if I just have my hand in the ice water, it's a lot more painful than if my whole body is in, because my body is using all of its energy to escape the cold. So it's going to make this really painful, right? But if I, get under the water and I'm up to my shoulders, my body's like, okay, now we just have to deal with the cold. Wow. Now I'm going to spend my energy to shift, do whatever I need to do to adapt to that situation.
I bet that's a common mistake. A lot of people probably, think, I'll put like my waist in, but now your body's trying to literally jump out of the water as opposed to fully submerging. And then I guess it just survives. I mean, we're human beings and we adapt. So that's a cool little tip there. I like that. What was it? The other thing was so the Costco ice bags, anything else that we should use, any kind of tools that you have for doing stuff at home?
Yeah, so people ask me all the time where I get my ice bins. Essentially, they're called stock tanks, or it's what you put hay in to feed horses. Oh. So I have the metal. They're called galvanized metal. You can get them at most feed and tack shops, if you have that in your neighborhood. Tractor Supply Company is a company that's all across the U.S., and they have the poly ones, which are like a really thick plastic. Rubbermaid makes one. Tough Stuff also makes another one that's very cheap. And then you have the galvanized ones. So there's really 3 different models. And the key is to get one. I found the perfect length is 5 feet. So 5 feet long. You want it they're usually about 2 feet high and 2 feet, at least 2 feet wide. And then, like I said, 5 feet long. So again, if you just look up stock tanks, they're, anywhere from $70 to $200.
That's awesome. I want to buy one. I don't have really space. I'd have to put it on my deck. I don't know if there's enough infrastructure to support the weight.
Yes.
So you put like about 200-300 pounds into these,
right.
200-300 pounds of ice into these, and then jump in for a couple minutes. And we're actually going to be we're going to be doing that after this podcast. So I'm going to be putting my bathing suit on and jumping in this freezing cold ice bath for the second time in my life. A little fearful, you could say. So before we do that, though, I wanted to ask kind of what else or where else can we find you online, first of all?
So my website is drtrishasmith.com. Instagram's Dr. Trisha Smith. Facebook, same way. I was lucky enough to get all the
Dr. Trisha
socials.
Smith.
Yes. Yeah. I post mostly on Instagram because I love the, simple pictures and words. All my workshops are up on my website, all my Wim Hof workshops. I also have a Wake Up Routines Challenge, which is kind of another brand with Expand Your Human under that umbrella. We touched on it earlier. Sleep is one of the newest of the 6 primal principles that we're putting in there. And, with all the sleep, amazing sleep research, and we know we have to have it. And now we're sleeping in these dark, bat caves. But then we wake up in the morning, it's like, how do we get out of bed? Now I don't want to get out of bed. So I started looking at, for the last 3 years, like, what should we be doing physiologically? Not just, what's successful people's morning routines. What does Tony Robbins do in the morning? Well, I'm not Tony Robbins, but I'm a human. So what should a human be doing to actually wake their bodies up physiologically? What should I be doing with my eyes, with my ears, even my nose? What movements should I be doing?
I have to ask, what's one thing we should be doing when we wake up to help us get up out of bed quickly?
One thing is do not hit snooze. Actually jump up. Especially if the key is to time it right, and I go into this in my challenge of timing it right so your body wakes up when it should. Okay? Because it needs a certain amount of sleep. And adults now, we know it's like between 7 and 9 hours that we actually really need. 6 hours, they've shown, even I think it's within 3 days, will put you back almost as if you've been drinking and you've lost attention and focus, even just 6 hours. So we're finding it is extremely, extremely important. So
I need to sleep a little bit more is what you're telling me.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you wake up, you want to get up. Especially, again, if your body wakes up naturally, that's the time you want to get up. And what happens is those times where you hit snooze or you're like, I think I'm going to lay here for a little bit longer. And then you get up and you have that like total grogginess. And I call it the dropsies. I'll like just drop stuff and I'll be totally off. That's actually called sleep inertia. And basically what you did then was you went back into a cycle of a deeper sleep. And when your body usually wakes up naturally, you're in this lighter sleep cycle. So you get up and you feel great. And sleep inertia can go from anywhere from 10 minutes to, some people get it for like half the day. So staving off sleep inertia is like the number one thing to
just from hitting snooze.
Yeah.
Wow. And I definitely have experienced that brain fogginess. I used to religiously hit snooze 5 to 6 times. I was exhausted. But I heard that similarly, like we just kind of jump out. I still hit snooze a lot though, actually, as I'm thinking about it. But lately I've been waking up like that without my alarm, before my alarm. And I just get up, like you said, because it feels better. I'm not as tired. And I probably could talk to you about this all day long.
Yes. We could have another one of sleep and waking.
And so you have a program though on your website for wake up routines, right? Where we can learn more about that.
Yeah, this is just a 5-day challenge, and right now I'm working on the online course.
Cool.
Yeah.
So first off, I have to say thank you so much for coming on the show. Even though I've done a workshop with you, even though we've talked before this, I learned actually a lot in this episode myself. And I just love the concept of your brand, Expand Your Human. I'm always looking for ways to expand my life in every area and to really expand the capabilities of my health and my body and my brain. All with Expand Your Human is fantastic. And there's different levels. The primal principles were like just on point. Adding play in there, I really like too, because it's something I forget to do a lot. And so you've achieved so much success in the ability to expand your own human. And I know there's always going to be more later on. And so for you, what is your next level of success?
Next level is this. I'm just coming out of a transition from leaving a private practice that I had in Los Angeles for about 7.5 years and transitioning and not going back into practice. Not because I didn't like it, but I want to be able to impact more people and not just one-on-one. And so now it's this transition to, build, expand your human wake-up routines and just impact people again on a simple level and getting back to being a human.
I can totally relate and appreciate that mission. I love it. Trish, thanks so much for coming on Unleash Success.
Thanks for having me.
If you enjoyed the show and learned something of value, the one ask that I have is please go subscribe, whether you're on iTunes, Spotify, or YouTube. And if you leave us a 5-star rating or review, that absolutely helps us get our message out there. Each week, I'm going to continue to interview amazing people, and we're going to break down their tools and strategies to help get you real results. Feel free to visit the website, unleashsuccess.com, and subscribe to our newsletter so you can get updates each week. And remember, knowing is not enough. Knowledge alone is not power. Action is. Because action is the only way you're going to get the results you want in life and truly live the life of your dreams. So take some action, subscribe to the podcast today, and get ready to unleash success in you.